This is the Red Bull Rant podcast. If you aren't expecting adult language, why even bother listening? Welcome, my friends, to the show never ends. This is the Red Bull Rant podcast. I'm your host, Jason Iapicco.
I'm Truman, and it's episode 422. Icebreakers. The Fresh Maker.
I was going to go with, I forget what the last week's episode title was, but I was going to say we should do that part two. So,
oh, yeah.
But, yeah, definitely another icebreaker. Red Bulls get their first win of the season, thankfully. Fucking finally.
Yep.
2-1 over Columbus. Van Zier gets his first goal of the season. So that's huge. We'll get into that. And I just realized I got to download a voice. I'm going to do it real quick while you read the tweets for this game.
All right. Let's get these tweets going. Well, hold on 1 second. 3, 2, 1. Okay, here we go. From at Ruchesco said 2 goals, 2 DPs, post 2015 Red Bulls does not compute. What's the odds Van Zier comes off the bench against Charlotte? Probably like 100%. Jeremiah at Red Coach J said, "Hey, good player we paid to play good does good thing. How about that?" And then of course Steven Santos, finally we won. Brought a new friend to the game, and he agrees our goalie sucked on that first goal we gave up. But what a great comeback win by our DP goal. My friend Fulton will come back to more games for sure. There you go.
Yeah,
there's your tweet.
It's kind of important, to win to bring fans in.
Yeah.
Imagine that. All right. So I said a voicemail. Eddie Delecto's back, baby.
Yes.
All right. So he called in Saturday night at like 11 o'clock, so I'm sure this was after the game and after him being very happy for the win. So let's hear what he has to say.
It's been a while, guys. How are you? I'm pretty hungover. I don't want to talk that much. My throat is also murdering me, but it is so fucking nice to see you win. It is so nice to go through Orlando and see that loss. The 2 ties in the middle, in Haas and at home. And finally seeing a win. And that 2-1, it was so nice. I can forget about the shit housing in the first one. That was awful, but we don't talk about that. But, oh my God. It is so nice to see a win. It is also nice to be fucked up and watching a win at home. It feels like it's been forever. And that's all I have to say. I'm so happy to make a call again. I know, I'm sure the guys are dreading it. Seeing my name on the list. Good night.
Clearly we were not dreading it because we celebrated.
Oh, we're very happy.
Yeah.
And I have a question for Eddie.
Kept our Google voice number going.
Eddie, how are you hungover when you're calling in us at night?
I'm assuming he was preparing himself for pain.
Right.
And he self-medicated a little too early. That's all I could think about. But anyway, Eddie, it's good to hear your voice again.
Yes.
So yeah, with that being said, let's get into our thoughts on the game with our likes and dislikes. Since I usually let you go first on dislikes, I'm going to take it first this time because that goal was shit.
It's fucking embarrassing!
As it was pointed out on the broadcast, Cornell had no real reason to be out of the box. I think if it wasn't for Cornell, Reyes clears that ball no problem, and we win 2-0. And Truman then gets 3 points instead of 1.
Yeah.
Just a complete miscommunication. unfortunately, not the first time Cornell's had those kind of
gaffes.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the right word.
Fart.
That's a good way of putting it. Not the first time. Hopefully, it's the last. But that was a completely unavoidable goal. The only good thing I could say is that we held them. I think that was only I think officially only 2 shots on goal the whole game. So if you were to take that one away, that means the defense only gave up really 1 shot on goal. And that's a good streak to continue. It just sucks that we had to give up the goal in that fashion.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to make a mistake like that once or twice a year, I'm okay with it.
At least it happened in a win.
Yeah, and at least it didn't happen 2 minutes into stoppage time in the second half. So there's a lot worse things can happen. Since you already talked about that, my dislike is the field looked like shit again. And I don't know what's going on over there because, again, that field is pristine. The Red Bulls take pride on having a perfect field. And I know it's still March, but I don't know, with this team, I feel like even by March, that field is just like green, ready to be played on. And there are still just patches of brown in there. So I don't know what's going on. Red Bull groundskeepers, but get your shit together.
The only thing I could possibly think of is that the weather has been kind of all over the place this winter and maybe fucked with them. That's the only possible thing I could think of. Now, and I don't know why I'm thinking of this. So let me see. So DC has been sharing their stadium this year with the XFL again. And remember, when it happened, I guess it was 3 years ago now, because right before the pandemic hit. Their field looked like shit when they were sharing it.
Mm-hmm.
And their field looks so much better this year for what they're doing. Like, why is it that DC has a better field than we do? They play in a fucking swamp and they have a better field than we do. It sucks. I don't know. Hopefully the grounds crew fixes it. Thankfully for them, they're going to have, at least for the Red Bulls, a few weeks break. I think Gotham FC will play one of those weeks, but we'll see. Likes, Truman, what did you like about this match?
I mean, we can all be very happy that Vancier scored a goal. But the biggest part of that were the 2 assists they got on that goal. And both of those had to be spot on time. And it was, I think, with Christian Caceres to John Tolkien to Vancier. And they were both perfect passes. And the great thing about Vancier is that he buried it because Tom Barlow probably would have kicked it into section 101.
Well, he also would have tried to get under control first.
Yes.
Vancier was just like, fuck this shit. I'm going to take this shot now.
Yep.
My like, just to be a little different, is going to be Laquinius' goal because the whole game, the narrative pumped on the broadcast was they got to get Laquinius back into form. And that was just like, for having that narrative being played out for the whole first half and beginning of the second half, that was perfect. I guess it's actually perfect, leads to my afterthoughts, because the reason that was able to happen was because in the second half, and I guess it's a new thing this year, is that the referees are actually enforcing multiple fouls against a single player is going to result in the card. And we saw the warning given to us when we what was it? I think Nagby, multiple times we fouled him.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually the same thing happened to Laquinius, and he warned it. And then after that warning, Laquinius all of a sudden was able to be creative. It's almost like we've been saying, the teams are intentionally fouling him, taking him out of the games, and the league was not protecting the player. All of a sudden, the league protects the player, and good things happen.
Yep. So, and it definitely seemed like a different team in the latter stages of the second half. More attacking football, which I don't think we'd seen in ages.
It's because they weren't playing from behind. It's amazing.
Well, they were playing from behind before they scored that first goal, so the pressure was coming leading up to the first goal. But it's nice to and that's no Lewis Morgan, so more of that, please, for the love of God.
Seriously.
I mean, I think I tweeted during the game that I thought when they were losing, or maybe when it was scoreless, with this lineup, I think this team could beat anyone in the league. But they just didn't show anything until the second half. You know, they didn't show like they were that team. But I mean, knock on wood, this is a sign of things to come. We honestly don't know with this with the Red Bulls. But they show you when they have that talent on the field, they can be a threatening team.
It's almost like there's some potential there.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird when you put on your best players in the field. What happens?
And you actually leave your most creative player on the field for the majority of the game.
Yes. Crazy. Crazy, I know.
Yeah. I think the only reason, and if I remember correctly, the only reason he came out was because of a possible injury scare, and they wanted to protect him.
Mm-hmm.
Which, after the 80th minute, okay, I get that. You're protecting a player. That makes more sense than taking him out in 60 minutes because you feel like he wasn't doing something. All right. Any other afterthoughts?
No, just relief.
Speaking of relief, that's a good segue into the pain index. So we asked you guys how you're feeling after the win. There's definitely an improvement in people's moods. It was a very close vote in terms of the overall index. One vote separated levels 2 and 3. And that accounted for over 50% of the vote. So we're feeling apparently much better as a collective fan base because that number last 2 weeks was around like 3.5.
So you said there's one vote between 2 and 3. So what was the winner?
Oh, I'm sorry. 2 was the winner by that one vote.
So there's still a slight amount of pain in the 2-1 win, and I think you and I agree is because Van Zier played 15 minutes, and the Carnell oopsie daisy.
Yeah, and actually, I think we should talk about this. So Jeremiah at Red Coach J on Twitter said that there's not really a good option between winning a cup and, quote, a draw snatched from victory, which I believe. Hold on, let me just make sure. Yep, that's 0 and 1. So his suggestion is, what do you choose? Or basically, what do you choose for a regular old win or something positive, but not a full-on trophy? His suggestion.
I think we're going to tweak it a little bit.
I think we have to.
Yeah.
His suggestion was a good player we paid to play good does good things.
I like it. That should be the 0. That should be 0 or 1.
Well, no, 0 I think is winning trophy. 1 is that, and then we just kind of shift everything down, I think.
Okay.
So next week we're going to shift those the descriptions down. I mean, the bottom half of the index is loaded with a lot of first round playoff exits. So
yeah.
All right. Prediction standings: Truman gained 1 point for calling the win. I gained nothing, so that puts Truman at 2 points, me at 0. All right. With that, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have on the show Gary Gibson from the Soccer Over Gotham podcast. We'll be back with more Red Bull Rant right after this. Welcome back to the Red Bull Rant. Today we have on with us a very special guest. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, Gotham FC kicks off their season this Sunday, March 26th. So we have on with us one of the hosts of podcasts I mentioned last year covering Gotham FC from the Soccer Over Gotham podcast, Gary Gibson. Gary, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate you guys giving me the platform to talk about our podcast. And as a fan of your show for a long time, I really, really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, as you've mentioned, I know you mentioned on your podcast before, and our listeners know, I try to at least keep us updated on what Gotham FC is doing. Unfortunately, time is a main factor for a lot of people. And unfortunately, Gotham FC is not one of those teams I could pay a lot of attention to. So I wanted, with the start of the regular season coming up for you guys, I figured it was a good opportunity for our listeners to get a little more info on the other tenant at Red Bull Arena.
Absolutely. And I want to start off by saying I am a Red Bulls fan, and my pain level is like 0.51 at this point.
That's a very specific pain level right there.
Yes. I think Reyes is going to be a big time sell for that team.
I don't know. We kind of don't sell players, so we'll see.
He's gonna have to go eventually. He's finally getting his legs underneath him. I think he's gonna be a big sell.
All right. Let's talk about the reason we're here. Gotham FC. As I mentioned, their season starts this Sunday, March 26th, where they will travel to take on Angel City. So for those who aren't familiar with the NWSL, can you give us kind of a quick history lesson on the NWSL, women's soccer, and then I guess to a degree Gotham FC?
The NWSL is about 10 years old as a league, and it is the last of the major women professional soccer leagues. The 2 or 3 before them failed, and this one at some points probably should have, but it kept going. And it's reached the point where the CBA has finally been written. The players finally have a sense of protection, and the sport is growing and is blowing up. And they're taking a very much page out of Major League Soccer's playbook, where they're now using the expansion teams as a way to boost revenue and to further the league. And they just added 2 new teams last season. They're going to be adding more teams very soon. And it's the main gist of it. But it's a super exciting, fun league. There's only 12 teams, and you got one right in your backyard to play exactly where the Red Bulls play. So you don't have to go anywhere else. You go right back to the same place. And it's a super fun team. And Gotham is the rebrand of Sky Blue FC. Sky Blue FC was a New Jersey-based team. And about 2 years ago, they rebranded to New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. And it was a big deal. They were riding high, and some of the players are local, just like the Red Bulls are. We have some New Jersey players. We have some New York players, sort of players you can identify with. And it's a super fun team. It is the opposite. They were built the opposite way of Red Bull, where they were very possession heavy, very U.S. women's national team heavy. They would outpossess you. They would outthink you, outpossess you. And so it was a good balance between being a Red Bulls fan and a Gotham fan, because I could see both sides of that coin. But Gotham's a super exciting team, and I can't wait to talk more about it.
Okay, I'm going to let you in a little secret. I was at the first ever Sky Blue game at the Somerset Patriots baseball stadium.
Yeah, that was like 10 minutes from my house when I grew up, and I didn't go to it. I don't know why, but I'm mad at myself for not doing it, because that's awesome. It's right by my house.
Yeah, that was
very
super
cool.
Fun. Everyone got a free scarf. It was a good time.
Mm-hmm. We actually did years ago a doubleheader of Red Bulls and then at the time Sky Blue, where we sat with Cloud9. Use that as a nice little segue. So a bunch of Red Bull fans or probably most of our listeners on the show are supporters. So Cloud9 is the supporters group for Gotham FC. Can you give us a little bit of a background on their formation and what they try to do to support the team?
There's a lot of interchange between Red Bull supporter groups and Cloud9. So a lot of them are supporters of both. But Cloud9 is incredible. They bring that fun, loud ruckus to every game. And this team, since its inception, has not been very fun. It's been more negative than positive. So for them to stick through and to show up every week and bring the noise and bring that level of intensity every single week, my hat goes off to them. I love supporter groups just in general. They're the lifeblood of the sport. I want to build them up as much as I can. I love them, and they're just amazing. And they're the best people. They're so welcoming, and everybody is welcome. They're super fun. I just love them to death.
I mean, you want to talk about being through it all. They were through it on and off the field.
Mm-hmm.
You know. No, we don't have to get into that nonsense that they had to put up with a couple years ago. But I mean, these fans have been put through the ringer with this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And supporter groups in general are the lifeblood of the sport, but they're the ones who take the brunt of it. They're the ones for the fans. They're the ones who have the front office's ear, so they've through it all, and they're still doing amazing. And I love them.
All right. So now, for listeners of ours who are not familiar with Sky Blue FC, I'm sorry, I say Sky Blue FC in my head, Gotham FC. Who are some players to look out for on the Gotham roster?
So this year, Gotham is very, very top heavy. There's a lot of stars. If you ever watch the women's national team, a lot of those players are there. You got Christy Muse is on the national team. Lynn Williams, who just joined the team this year, is a superstar. She's the second leading scorer of all time in the NWSL, and she's on Gotham this year. Midge Purse is a superstar. She's everywhere. And we have classic players like McCall Zerboni. We have Allie Krieger, is one of the best that ever play. We have Kristen Edmonds, who's from New Jersey. She's one of the most technical players that you're ever going to find. Allie Long, one of the best passers of the ball you're going to find. Last season, before she went on maternity leave, was hitting 92% of her passes from the defensive midfield position. Incredible, out of this world. There's so many good players. Oh, we got Kelly O'Hara too. It just goes on and on. So it's just a team full of superstars, and it's going to be a really, really fun season.
Do you think they kind of loaded up because they're like, hey, last year was such a disappointment. We want to keep the fans' interest at Red Bull Arena. We want to keep bringing people in.
It works. There's two things about that. Yes, I would agree with you 100% that they want to keep fans in the stands. But another thing this season, it was a top heavy team, but the depth of the roster was not good enough to compete at this level. And this year they went all out and got basically too deep at every position. It's just interchange a star for another star, and it's just going to be one after another, just going and going and going. It's just going to be awesome.
All right, so I'm sure you guys are going to talk about season preview stuff on your show this week, since you guys are playing Sunday. So the last few years, coming out of COVID, the NWSL followed the MLS in a season opening tournament, right? They called it the Challenge Cup. And unlike MLS, they actually kept it going after the first year out of COVID. And it seems like it's now become an annual thing. Right before we started recording, I was looking at their schedule, and I had mentioned to you that it looks like that tournament is now interspersed with the regular season, where in previous years was all up front. So what is the plan for that tournament going forward, and for the NWSL as a league?
I was not a fan of the Challenge Cup at the beginning. I don't like a front-heavy schedule tournament when the players are not fully fit and so they're not ready to go. There's just too many games in too short a period of time. And I know causation doesn't equal correlation, but I thought a lot of players got injured really early in the season during that tournament because they just were not fully 90 fit. So I like how it's done this year, where it's interspersed throughout the season. Most all the games are just like the MLS, are on the weekends, and then you have the Challenge Cup during the week to break up the season. And I like that it goes on all season, gives you another thing to talk about, another storylines to add, and it just makes it a little more competitive and gives an extra trophy to win. Because when you got 12 teams, there's only 2 trophies, a shield and the cup. Adds another trophy, adds another something to go for. I like it.
Oh man, preseason tournaments. It reminds me of the WBC, and as a Mets fan, I'm in a living hell right now.
Yes.
Because I despise, because there's just.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about Edwin Diaz anymore. It's just gonna.
Yeah, I heard about that. It's nuts.
So just really looking at this team realistically after last year was brutal. I mean, it was absolutely brutal season. I feel bad for the fans who had to. I mean, it was a lot of just like 1-0 losses. No offense. Realistically, what do you think the team's expectations this year? I mean, you talked about a top heavy. You talked about depth. Is this kind of league where a team can flip 180 degrees in one season?
Yeah, last season the team that ended up in the final was the KC Current, and they were at the bottom of the table the season before. A good coach and a good roster can get you to the finals. Again, there's only 12 teams. Anything can happen. And with Gotham last season, try to boil down that entire season to a couple lines. They ended up with a new coach. For a rookie coach, rookie GM, and a roster that just was not built for depth. And it just ended up being they were competitive at first, like you were saying. There was a lot of 1-0 losses, 2-1 losses at the beginning. And then you felt like at the beginning of the season, you felt like one ball bounces here and there. We're still in this. We're still competitive. We're still getting there. And then the coach lost the plot, and the team started losing 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, and at the middle of the season was just not competitive. We had a new coach, an interim coach, who basically gelled the team back together. Now this team was talented. We're not putting the final product together. And if you look at the last game of last season, the one thing this team did not lose was that fight. They went in against the Shield leading Portland Thorns, who eventually won the title. They went down 3-1 and then came back and fought back to 3-3, and it was incredible. This team fights. They are competitive, and adding all these new players to the roster, I think this team this season with a new coach who has a really good game plan can win one of those 3 trophies that we just talked about. I think they realistically can win one.
So if you had to take a guess, which would you put your money on for Gotham FC to win?
Ooh. I think the Challenge Cup. I think this team is deep enough because the Challenge Cup, as you know, like the Open Cup, is all about depth. And I think Gotham has enough depth, enough players that can fill in to keep the pressure on. And I think they can do that.
So they don't have to roll out a real second grade B team out there for those games.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So now the Women's World Cup is this summer,
mm-hmm.
right? And we know for the men's side is during the international windows, players leave, and most leagues, MLS is not one of those, would actually stop playing to a lot of their players to be overseas. How does the NWSL handle their international players? And I guess more importantly, how is this season going to be affected by the Women's World Cup?
That's a good question for Gotham because as we just spoke about, there's a lot of women's national team players on this roster. So we will most likely lose 2 or 3 forwards and a midfielder or 2. But they did the best they could as far as like lessening the schedule around the tournament. So there's going to be the least amount of games they could possibly play around that time. But I think Gotham, as we talked about, as far as their depth, I think is in a unique position to do really well during those times. Those times.
All right. So this weekend, are you allowed to make a prediction on this show? Or do you have to tune into your podcast? Go on.
I manifest things. I don't make predictions. So with this game coming up on Sunday, it is getting a new coach, a lot of new players, our first real run outs. I'm not expecting too much. The interesting thing about this game is that again it's in LA where they're going to have a full crowd. It's going to be bonkers there. And it's a lot of their coach is a former Gotham coach. They have a former Gotham assistant coach, former Gotham goalkeeping coach. So it feels like Gotham B over there. So we know them. We know how they play. I think we stack up pretty well against them. I say manifest a 2-1 win.
Where is what stadium's the game at, by the way?
It was the Bank of America. Was it now? Was it something else now?
I'm looking it up. Oh yeah, BMO Stadium. Now. Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is the last question I have. So if you said there's only 12 teams, so you're going to play everybody a bunch of times. Out of the 11 opponents for Gotham FC, who do you think is going to be the most interesting opponent to watch over the course of the season? If you had to pick an opponent for people new to tune into, to be a really good game experience, what would that opponent be?
I would probably say KC, the Current. They're building a monster of a roster over there. It is a interesting look because I think they made it to the finals last season, but they also went out and purchased pretty much every name player they could think of in the off season. So they loaded up as well, even after being in the finals. So I think they're going to be a really powerhouse of a roster. So I would like to see this team and that team go head to head with all their new additions and see, which one comes out the best, because both of them are going to have unique styles. The KC uses a very unique formation, and so does Gotham. So it's going to be a very interesting stylistic matchup as well. I think that is the team that I'm really gunning for, because during the off season we took some of their players, they took some of ours. It's just like there's a lot in a good position to make a lot of waves.
All right. So last thing, you say you don't make predictions for Gotham,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to make a prediction for the New York Red Bulls this weekend as they go down into Atlanta, who they rarely lose to.
Okay, that's a tough one. Atlanta looked really good in the past week. They looked interesting, but they always bring the best out of Red Bull. They always do. It's always a dogfight, and I think physically.
You mean Charlotte? Atlanta's next week.
Okay, Atlanta's next week. Yeah.
Sorry, you're right.
Yes, with Charlotte. Charlotte's also a tough team. I think they're a good offensive team. Red Bull, I think, matched up pretty well against them, and I think this Red Bulls team, will pull it a win, 1-0.
Over under on minutes for Van Zier.
I say he gets the whole second half.
So you're taking 40. I would say 45. You're taking the over. Is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. The guy looks good. I like him.
He's been averaging 15. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. So Gary, as you know, since you listen to the show, we always let our guests promote themselves, whatever they're associated with. So, where can people find you online? Where can they find your podcasts? All that good stuff.
We are the top NWSL teams podcast out there. We do one Gotham player a month, at least, with the interviews. We got some lined up right now. I can't wait. But we're a weekly podcast. We come out usually every Thursday. You can find us on anywhere. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on iTunes. We're everywhere. Our fun pages are going to be the Twitter at Over Gotham Pod, and then on Instagram at Soccer Over Gotham. Find us there. We do a lot of fan content, a lot of fan polls, and we are the voice of the fans. So come on over, talk to us, and we'd love to hear from you.
All right. So Gary, thank you for taking time out of your day to come talk to us. Good luck, of course, to Gotham FC on their season, and good luck to you and your co-host Ruby. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, but good luck to you guys on your podcast this year, and maybe we'll check in at some point and see how Gotham FC is doing.
Absolutely, and we should have you guys on our pod too. Check with the Red Bulls as well. It'll be fun.
Cross promotion.
I just heard Mega Show. That's what I heard.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
All right, Gary, thank you once again for coming on. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more Red Bull Rant right after this. Welcome back to the Red Bull Rant podcast. Once again, I want to thank Gary for coming on the show. If you want to check him out, make sure to check him out Soccer Over Gotham podcast. We were just going to say this for later, might as well talk about it. Gotham FC's season opener, we mentioned, was on Sunday, March 26th against Angel City. That game is going to be broadcast at 9 p.m. on the Paramount Plus service. If you are interested in watching NWSL, everything is CBS related, so it's either Paramount Plus or CBS Sports. And I think they actually has some CBS proper games too during the season, but I'm not 100% sure about that. All right, so before we talk about the match coming up this weekend for the New York Red Bulls, we do have to talk about some international call-ups because they will be missing from this weekend's game. 3 players as of now have been called up by their respective nations. So the Red Bulls will be missing this weekend forward Corey Burke, who's been called up by Jamaica. Midfielder Christian Caceres Jr. has been called up by Venezuela. And this one doesn't really hurt as much as he hasn't been playing. But Steven Sawada has been called up by Uganda.
Oh, no.
So not great in terms of the fact that we had what has been 2 main players being called up, but good in the fact that it's only 2 players. There are some teams out there, i.e. Philadelphia and Orlando, that have like 6 or 7 players being called up by various nations and youth teams. So in terms of losing players, we're not in a bad boat. It sucks we're going to be playing during an international break, but it's MLS. So
yeah. What else is new?
Yep. All right. So the Red Bulls will be traveling down to Charlotte to take on Charlotte FC. That game is Saturday, March 25th. Coverage starts at 7:30. Kickoff at 7:39. And former Red Bull Lloyd Sand will be calling this game as the color commentator. So that'll be a nice little touch. Game will be on MLS Season Pass. Not sure if this is the free game of the week. Charlotte comes into this match with a 1-0-3 record, getting their first win this past weekend against Orlando. So 3 points, 3 goals scored, 7 goals against. And their last 5 is clearly a win and 3 losses. One of those was the home opener in St. Louis, where I believe Charlotte scored an own goal, which was the first goal at the stadium in St. Louis. So that's an interesting little tidbit. So predictions, Truman, you go first. What is your prediction for the match on Saturday?
Of course, Corey Burke has to miss this game, just as he had a fantastic game. No surprise there. But here's the real prediction. Dante Van Zier better be on that goddamn field for at least 60 minutes.
See, that's what we said last week.
Then we just blow up the stadium in Charlotte. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, the Panthers don't need the stadium.
I refuse to watch Tom Barlow start a game anymore. There's no reason for it. None. I want that man on the bench, enjoying the bench, coming on in the 89th minute. That's what I want out of Tom Barlow. That being said, I think Charlotte fans still need some more humbling. And I'm hoping the New York Red Bulls do it to them. So I'm going to stay with the Red Bulls win again because I'm a madman and I love being such for punishment. But, I mean, I like the way the team played, minus one really bad gaffe. Let's go. Let's see. Gary said 1-0, so I'm not going to say that. I'll be different. Let's go 2-1.
I think there's a lot of positives we could take out of last week, or at least the second half of last week. Charlotte has not had a good start to the season. So in their losses, it was 1-0 at home to New England, 3-1 on the road to St. Louis, which whatever, that's new stadium opening up, but then lost 3-0 at home to Atlanta. In fairness, Atlanta seems to be a pretty good team this year. So, but they have lost 2 home games this year. If I remember correctly, I want to say we drew the game at Charlotte last year. We didn't win. It was either we draw or loss, but yeah, I don't see this team at least getting a win over us. I'm going to go positive and say win myself because I don't want to see another draw. I think I'm going to go a little bit more positive. I'm going to copy your prediction from last week, and I'm going to say 2-0 victory for the Red Bulls on the road. I almost said 3-1 because last week we joked about 1 goal, then 2, then 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that streak continues, but I as long as we win, that's all that really matters in the end is that we win. All right. New York Red Bulls 2. They're back.
Yes.
But they're not in the USL Championship anymore, so there's, I guess, a silver lining there. They will kick off their MLS Next Pro season on Sunday, March 26th at home against Columbus Crew 2. That game is 7 p.m. Eastern Time. For those who want to watch it, it will be available on MLS Season Pass. So you're already paying for MLS Season Pass, and one way or another, you can get this game included.
Do you like red cards? You should watch this game.
And what was the name of the Red Bull 2 podcast you came up with?
Oh, the Red Card Rant.
Yeah. All right. With that, it is time for the dumping ground.
I'm the trash man.
All right. Is there anything you would like to talk about?
Jay, you know there's only one thing I want to talk about. So if you got anything else, you better get out of the way right now.
I don't, and I watched it.
Excellent.
Insane.
Formula One. Let's talk about it. Listen, what a weekend it was for Red Bull. Because despite getting knocked out of qualifying in the second stage, Max Verstappen started in 15th and finished second, only behind our boy Checo Perez, who finished first. Pretty much wire to wire in this. I mean, he gave up the lead a couple times, but he dominated.
I think like the first and second lap were the only ones he didn't lead, and that was it.
Yeah. So I mean, Red Bull is just, they proved it yet again. They are the dominating team in Formula One. Ferrari, I mean, it's 2 races in. Ferrari looks completely out of it. Mercedes looks a little bit better. And that's it. Alonso looks really good. 2 podiums in the first 2 races, so good for him. But I mean,
well, not 2 podiums.
2 podiums, sir. They took his points away and then they gave it back. So
they gave it back. I only heard that they took it away.
Nope, they gave it back. So we did get that 3rd place finish. What a weird,
Jeez.
Everyone's strange when it comes to stuff like that. Like, why don't you wait a couple days before making any of those decisions?
Or decide it in the hour you had between the supposed incident and the podium.
Yeah. So they're off this week, and then they will go race the one game that there's not a chance in hell I could possibly stay awake for, because they will be in Australia. And listen, I've tried to stay awake for that. It's just
that's what ESPN Plus is for. That's what I've been using.
It's tough. Oh yeah, I mean I DVR it. So
out of curiosity, when it's on actual TV, are there ad breaks? Because on ESPN Plus there are not.
No ad breaks. No ad breaks during when they do the qualifying sessions. They only show ads in between the 3 sessions, and there is no ad breaks during the race.
God, imagine that. I mean, I know there's ad boards and
nice,
stuff all over the track, but no fucking ad breaks is nice.
Yeah, it is.
And listen, if you're at all interested in motorsports, I would definitely say F1 is the one to check out. I mean, NASCAR is left turns for 3 hours, just whatever. F1 is actual, racing and technique. I will say, I don't know how they engineered it, but that fucking car that Verstappen drove was so fast when it came to the pit lane straightaway. I know that the DRS system allows him to open the flap is part of it, but he just carried so much speed into there. I think he overtook like 6 cars alone on that stretch of the track.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
amazing.
The past 3 years, at least, Red Bull has the fastest car on a straightaway, by far, bar none. And when they're on courses where you have a lot of that, and they can get that DRS zone, I mean, that's just what's going to happen with this team. They're extremely dominant right now. I mean, I hope it continues that way, but Mercedes already said they didn't like their car this year, and it's already shown that they are finishing 4th, 5th, 6th. Those are the places. I mean, again, 2 races in, but they're not very excited. They're hoping maybe like in about 5 or 6 races they'll have a little bit of better car. But right now, I mean, it's again Red Bull's for the taking. So if you like a constant winner, this is the team to watch.
Now, how does the fastest lap point work? Is that per race or is it across the whole season?
Per race.
Okay.
So fastest lap, you get a bonus point at the end of the race.
And I forget neither of the Red Bull guys got it in the first race.
No, I think Alex Albon got it in the first one, I believe.
Yeah, because they said Perez would be ahead by a point, so you got the fastest lap.
So, but then Max won the fastest lap in the last lap of the race, which put him back in first.
Yeah,
Checo had it, and then Max got it back, so he remains in first place, which is honestly just the way the Red Bulls won it.
All right, and that's our F1 podcast.
That's right, Red Bull Racing Rant.
Yeah. All right. So now it is time for Truman's terrible team of the week.
That's terrible.
It's not a score thing, but you should never let an expansion team set a record for 4 straight wins to open a season. But that's exactly what San Jose did, losing 3-0 to St. Louis. St. Louis scored like early on too. Give me 1 second to pull it up. Oh no, it scored in the 34th minute. But anyway, You shouldn't let that happen. What's wrong with you? Don't let these fans get excited. It just builds their hope up to come crashing down. But there's a good chance that St. Louis will probably win a cup before we do. But before I take a dig, I don't want to just take a dig at ourselves. I do want to say that St. Louis Stadium is really nice looking. They had really cool red lighting going on, and they also have their own stadium. Just saying. And there's a team that plays in the area that doesn't have their own stadium probably never will.
Did you like the rumor about
plans?
Did you like the rumor of the whatever the fucking title is for New York City councilman that wants to have the Jets share that stadium?
Hilarious. Not gonna happen.
it's not gonna, but it's hilarious.
Yep.
I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of Jets fans want it because a lot of Jets fans are from Long Island and Queens, and that's
right. I mean, that's their biggest fan base. You know.
Yeah. But I mean, come on. You think the Jets are going to move out of that stadium they just built 10 years ago?
No.
That they paid for?
What are they? The Atlanta Braves? Not going to happen. Texas Rangers? Give me a break.
Yeah. All right. Is that it? Are we done?
Yeah, we're fucking done.
Okay. Let's wrap this up. Patreon.com/Red Bull Rant. $1 a month is all you need for exclusive content such as monthly wrap-ups, live post games, anything we decide to do. You want to email us, redbullrant@gmail.com. If you want to call us like Eddie did and get your voice on the show, you can leave us a voicemail at 973-348-5329. Facebook.com/RedBullRant. On Twitter at Red Bull Rant for the show, at Doc the Stooge for myself, at the Truman for Truman. We're also on Mastodon, which I really have not been posting on, at Red Bull Rant, at mstdn.social. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, YouTube Music, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. Last words before we get out of here.
Yep, you got our hopes up. Don't fuck it up. Win.
All right. For Truman and myself, this has been episode 422 of the Red Bull Rant. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, go Red Bulls and go Gotham FC.
Yeah. Don't get red cards, Red Bulls.